welcome to today's webinar. It actually looks like I just see one attendee here, Taylor. So I'm going to go ahead and send you a request to unmute. That way, if you have any questions, since it's just me and you can go ahead and ask them. Do you want to try to unmute and see if you have any issues with that?
Hey there.
Hi. All right, great. So we can go ahead and get started here. Let me start my slideshow and we will start sharing my screen. And yeah, so if you have any questions or anything, so I think it's just showing my notes screen here. Let me see, let me switch my screens. There we go. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to just interrupt me. All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Sounds good. All right, so today we're going to go over OT evaluations. And our agenda here, we're going to go ahead and do an overview of OT evaluations in the system. We'll talk about basics of getting evaluations done. We'll talk specifically about the SEFWE. We'll also touch on the AOTA fieldwork data form, site-specific objectives, and more that you can do in the system and evaluations. And then we'll also talk about the FWPE Formstack integration. All right, so to get started with an overview of OT evaluations, one thing to keep in mind when we refer to evaluations in Exxat, that's just what we call the section of our system that you can have forms built in. So almost anything that you might want to have completed as a fillable form can be built as an evaluation. Many standard OT evaluations, though, are available right out of the box when you get Exxat. So depending upon when your school started working with us, you might have, some different versions of that. However, regardless of which version you currently have, I would really recommend, sometimes they're in a couple different places, but I would really recommend using them all in the evaluations section rather than those you might have in like a left-hand menu that says activities, or in the session activity section. There's a lot more features available now in evaluations that can really fulfill the needs that we used to have done in those two sections. If you would like an evaluation built that is currently set up elsewhere, maybe you have, the SEFWE in that left-hand menu of activities or something like that, you can absolutely ask our support team to, go ahead and get that changed over to an evaluation. So if that's the case, you can just, reach out to them, support@exxat.com, or right in your system, you have on your left menu a section for help. And then if you choose technical support, it'll have a little space where you can generate a ticket right there, which is also really nice because it'll show you the status and everything right in your system. All right. So I will say one standard form that we are unable to build in our system due to the copyright is the AOTA FWPE. So we are not able to build that form and have it fillable right in exact steps. However, we have worked with Formstack to set up an integration, and that integration allows you to store completed FWPEs in steps. And we'll talk about this in depth near the end of the webinar. And then, of course, I have these ones listed here that are kind of standard, the SEFWE, the AOTA fieldwork data form, and then like the AOTA level 1 performance evaluation. You can also have any custom forms that your school would like to use, built in to the system as well. So if you have like a level 1 performance evaluation that's different than the one on the AOTA website, we can absolutely build that in. Or sometimes schools have like a level 1 SEFWE. If you have something like that, we can build it in. Any site-specific objectives, or maybe you have like a custom version of the fieldwork data form, anything that you might have, we can build in evaluations if it's something that the person at the site or the students need to fill with regard to a placement. All right. Okay. Any questions about that?
No, I started here at the end of January, so I'm still just learning what all the forms are.
All right, great. So next we'll talk about some basics for evaluations. So let's say you have a new evaluation in steps or an existing one. What do you need to do in order to get it going, get it ready to be filled, and all of that. So the first thing that you need to do is get the evaluation built. If it's not one that already exists in the system, you need to go ahead and have that built in. Once it is built, you need to activate the form for the appropriate session and then choose the published date. And we'll talk about the implications of that here in a minute. You also will want to make the form visible on the student's to-do list so that they can access it. And then you'll want to choose evaluators for each student. So if it's one that's filled by somebody or that needs to be sent to the student's educator, you'll want to choose who that person is. If it's one that needs to be distributed to educators, you'll want to send those out through email. We'll talk about how to do that here in a second. And then you'll, of course, as those evaluations come in, want to view and analyze those as they get completed. So let's go through all of those steps. So first, getting an evaluation built. So to get an evaluation that isn't currently in your system built, you want to send that to us, to our support team, support@exxat.com, with these following things. So we would like a blank, unfilled copy of the form. We would prefer a Word file. If you don't have it, that's okay. But if you do have a Word file, that's what our team would prefer. Then also, if you have, you'll see in the handouts section of our webinar here, there's an evaluation questionnaire. You'll want to fill that out so that our team can build it properly. Who fills it, is there scoring, all that type of thing, are questions on the questionnaire. So you'll fill that out and get that sent over to us as well. And then also just let us know the date that you plan to use the form next so we can appropriately prioritize it. If you need it next month, that's going to bump yours up to being a higher priority one to build. Whereas if you don't need it for several months, we might, bump ahead those schools that have forms that need to be used next month. So then our team will build your form and they'll reach out to you with any questions that they have as they're building it. But unfortunately, right now, you're not able to build your own form. That's not something that we have at the moment. Something that some schools have requested, though, so may be coming in the future, but not right now. All right.
Okay.
Any questions about that? Good? Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so once the form is built, you'll want to activate it for the session that you want to use it for. So you have, your SEFWE built now, and you have a level 1A coming up, and you need to activate it for it. So how are you going to do that? You're going to go first to placements by session. Over here. Okay. So you're going to go to placements by session, and then you're going to find that session and go to session setup. Then in the to-do list on the right, you're going to go ahead and click on evaluation setup. Then on that next page, you're going to click assign form. This is going to open up a pop-up and it'll show you all the evaluations that have not already been assigned to this session. If you, for whatever reason, want to preview it, if you're not sure which evaluation is which, you can always click on this eyeball icon here, and that's going to show you, a preview of what that form will look like. Once you know which form you want to use, you're going to check the box to check off the form that you want to activate, and then you're going to click Save and Close. Right? Now the form will be active for the session, but it's not going to be visible to anybody yet. So to choose the date that the form becomes visible to students, you're going to want to publish it. So to do that, it's right after you activate it. This is what the page will look like. It'll show you all your evaluations that are active for that session. You're going to click on the green pencil, and this is going to open up a pop-up for you. You'll want to scroll down to the bottom of the pop-up, and there's a field for a published date. So what you're going to do there is enter in the date and time that you would like this form to become visible to students. Now, this form might be, one that's filled by students. You can see here it says evaluated by student for the site. So the student is filling it out about the site. That published date is actually going to be the date students can start filling out the form. So really important, for those forms that are filled by students, you pick the date that they could start filling it. If you need them to even be able to view the form without filling it at the beginning of their session, then you want to pick the beginning of their session as the date. If it's a form that their educator fills, say this was like a level 1 performance evaluation, assuming their educator has submitted that form, that published date will be the date that the students can actually view what their educator said about them. So really important to make sure you fill out that date. If students can't see evaluations, this is probably one of your first places to check. Make sure that that evaluation published date has been selected. Then after you do that, you'll just click Save and Close. Any questions so far?
Nope, sounds good.
No? All right, great. So once you've done that, you've activated the form for the session, you'll want to add it to the student to-do list. They will have no way of accessing this until they have evaluations on their to-do list. So in order to do that, you will once again go to Placements by Session. Then again, find your session and go to the session setup. Of course, if you're already there, you could just go back and go on the to-do list to the session activities. And then from there, you're going to be taken to a page that shows all of your existing activities. If you already have added this activity, then you don't need to do anything else, or if somebody else has added it. But if these are the only activities that are showing there, you'll want to click Add Activity, and that's going to open up a pop-up for you. Here, what you're going to want to do is select in the form name dropdown. You're going to choose the one called Eval Summary. So this is where they will get evaluations listed on their to-do list. Then you have the form label field. You can name it something else. So if eval summary won't make sense to your students, but evaluations will, you can type in whatever you'd like there, and that's the name that'll display to your students. And that's really all that you need to do here. You don't need to do anything else, so you can just go ahead and save and close. Any questions about that?
No, sounds good.
No? Okay. All right, so now the form is ready to go. It's going to be on the students' to-do list. But some of these might be ones that you need to send to an educator. Again, maybe it's like a level 1 performance evaluation or something like that. So if you actually need to send those out, what you'll want to do for that is go again to Placements by Session. This time you're going to find that session and go to Post Placement. The idea is this is something that you would want to do after the placement process is over and they've already been assigned, and then you're getting ready to send this out. So first you're picking which evaluator is going to get that evaluation for each student. When you go to post placement, on your right hand side you'll have your to-do list there, and you're going to want to choose Manage Educators. So here, this is going to open up a big table. So what you're going to see in this table is that every student's placement details are going to be a row, each student's placement. And you see that information in the first column. Then you'll see the clinical educators column. This is going to show you all the site staff at that site that that student is assigned to. Then you'll see the student educators column. So your students have a session activity, something on their to-do list, where they can fill out their educators information. So if your student has filled that out, you'll see those names in the student educators column. What you need to do here is choose for this student who is going to be the person receiving their evaluation. So you'll want to do that by checking the checkbox here next to whichever person's name that should be getting the evaluation. Once you do that, it will automatically populate the educator of record column here with that person that you've selected. So then you'll want to just click the save button and you'll be finished. But however, you are going to want to do this for every single student. So if you're doing this at one go and going through and checking off for 20 students at a time, you probably don't want to click that save button 20 times. So in that case, you can just check them all off and then click the save all button at the top. Right? And this is a really important step that you'll want to make sure that you do before you try to send anything out. And I'll show you when we talk about sending this. If no names come up on one page, that's going to be an indication that this step has not been taken care of. Right? Any questions about that?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. All right, so next, once you have decided who all those people are that are going to receive evaluations, you'll want to actually distribute them through email. So once again, here you'll be going to Placements by Session and to the Post Placement section. Of course, if you're already there for doing Manage Educators, you could just go back one step. And then on your to-do list on the right, you're going to click Evaluation Form Distribution. From here, it's going to load a page where you will see all the evaluations that are active for a session. Now you can see here like the SEFWE has an X in the action column because it's filled by the student. So there's nothing you need to do here to send that out to the student because it just appears to them on their to-do list on that published date that you've selected. But for the ones for the educator, they're going to have to get an email with a link to complete the evaluation. So we're going to have to send that out. So how you would do that is by choosing which evaluation you want to send and click on the orange Send Evaluations button for that particular evaluation. Right? Then it's going to load a list of all the student educator pairs. So again, if this page has nothing come up, it says like no records found, go back and check the Manage Educators page, make sure that's been done. Maybe did you check people off but not save, you know, anything like that, because that would be the main reason that nobody would be showing up here. All right. Then what you'll want to do is check off the student educator pairs that you want to send the evaluation out for. Again, you can do this all at once, like a mass email if you want to select several, or if you just need to send one, maybe the student's dates are slightly different, so you need to send them at a different time, you could just select that one. Then you're going to click Send Evaluation Notifications. And this is going to walk through the process just like many of our other emails do. It's going to open up this email notification wizard. So the first thing you'll want to do is be sure to, oh, I don't know why why did my animation do that? All right, you're going to select the template from the dropdown. Keep in mind, you can have different templates here if you need that. So if you need to have, you know, a separate one for your level 1 performance evaluation, and then maybe you have, you know, the site-specific objectives that you're also sending out this way, you might, you know, want to be sure to have multiple templates for that. If you want to have multiple template emails, what you'll want to do there is just, you know, let our support team know what you want that template to say. So you can send a Word file, you know, say this is an evaluation email template. I want it called Alert Student Placement Evaluation Site-Specific Objectives, and they will get it built in and available in that dropdown for you. All right, that's interesting. Let's just go back a couple steps. I'm not sure why my animation worked that way. Okay. All right, well, you'll see here after you select the template, you'll see the body of the email and the subject line. Of course, any of those fields with hashtags or pound signs around them are going to automatically merge with all that information. So each person gets their own unique email. If, of course, you want to like add a line for this group of emails you're sending out now, you just want to add a quick statement or something like that, you can absolutely type in here. Please just don't do anything with those merge fields, as it will cause a problem with the merge. All right. Then you'll want to scroll down and you'll see you have some additional options here. You'll have options to make that link password protected if you would like to.
I apologize. 1 second. I'm being
Sure,
asked.
sure.
I'm in the front office. So I'm being asked a
Sure.
question. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Sorry about that.
No worries. All right, so you have that option to make the link to the evaluation password protected. That is kind of tricky though. If you do that, you'll have to share that password with your sites in some way. You can, of course, CC or BCC someone like yourself on that email if you want to. You can also override the recipient's email. This is great if you're just, you know, sending out a test and you want to try it out. You also will have the option there to add any attachments that you'd like, and then you have expire the link in so many days. That's just how long the link to the evaluation is active for. You'll just want to go ahead and click next once you're ready to go on to the next step. And that's going to open up a page where it's going to once again show you everyone that you selected on the first page, just to make sure there wasn't somebody there that you didn't want to send it to. You'll just check off everybody that you do want to send it to and then click send. Once you do that, it's going to show you that your evaluation was sent in the status column there. All right, any questions about that?
Nope, that makes sense. Thank you.
No? Okay. All right, great. So they get that email with the link, they click on the link, they fill out the form and then submit the evaluation. So at this point, your next step is kind of going to be, you're gonna wanna check who submitted it, who hasn't. You know, I wanna run reports and actually read those evaluations. So in order to do that, you're going to be going once again to placements by session and to the post placement for that particular session. And then on your right-hand side here, you're going to go to evaluation summary. This is going to first open up a page where you can view details about the evaluation. So there'll be, counts of how many have been submitted and not. And also you see that column for published date and due date where you could edit the published date and due date if you want to. You will also have this really nice option here to export. What is going on? I don't know why my animations are doing this. Sorry about that. If you want to export the full contents of your submitted evaluation, you can use that purple export button to export to Excel. Then below that, you have an orange report button that's also really nice. It opens up this report for you that's going to give you a nice aggregate of all of the data for every single question within this evaluation. So you'll see there, here's just a sample question, adheres to ethics. And then you'll see like 2 students got a 4, 4 students got a 3, 1 student got a 2, 0 students got a 1. So you get a really nice idea of how your students are doing as a whole. This report also has a purple export button in the upper right corner if you want to export that to Excel. It's super, super helpful. I really like that report. All right, and that just opens up in a new tab, so you'll just close the tab to go back to this form details page. All right, then, why is it all coming up black like this? Sorry, I'm gonna try to start this slide over again.
No problem.
It's so funny because I previewed it yesterday and it didn't do that. Okay, let's see. Now it's working.
It gets performance anxiety. It's fine. It's just nervous.
All right, so then when you want to view the actual forms that have been filled, you see up here you have 2 tabs. You have form summary or form details and then summary. You're going to want to click on summary. And that's going to open up this page where you can see a nice grid of all the students' placements again as a row, and then in a column for every single evaluation. And then in that cell, you'll see a dot, and the color of that dot is going to indicate what the status of that evaluation is. So you can kind of quickly see at a glance how many you have in and not. So those that are red are not yet submitted, they haven't been completed. Those that are green have been submitted, and those that are gold are saved as a draft. So the person filling it, came in, answered some questions and clicked save, but then they can come back and submit it when they're finished. If you want to actually view the individual student's evaluation, you'll just want to click on that dot, and this is going to open up their evaluation in a new tab, and you can go through and read all of the responses. Right. Any questions before we start talking about the SEFWE specifically?
No, this makes sense so far.
No? Okay. So everything we already talked about is true for anything built in the evaluation section of Exxat. So it would be how you'd send out your level 1 performance evaluations or how you get SEFWEs completed. If you want to use the AOTA fieldwork data form through here, that'd be how you get that completed, or the site-specific objectives. But now I want to talk specifically about some of these features that are really useful for the SEFWE. But keep in mind, you could use these for any evaluation that you have, especially, those filled by students. So if you need to, have some of these added for a student self-evaluation, or if you need these added for your level 1 SEFWE, definitely let our support team know. We can absolutely add these to any form. Right, so the first feature I want to talk about in the SEFWE, once it's been filled by your students, you can actually take those responses that your students have filled and send them to their educators, and then have the educators sign them too. So if that's something that you want to do, you'll want to, send it to the educators by email. You can do that by going to placements by session, again in the post placement section, and again to evaluation form distribution. If you have this active on your evaluation, you'll have this extra button here on your list of evaluations that says send responses. And that will allow you to send those responses of what your students have filled to their educators. So if you click on that, it'll again open up that list of student educator pairs. Once again, if no names come up here, it's because of the Manage Educators page hasn't been taken care of yet. So absolutely, be sure to take care of that if that's the case. And then you're just going to select once again who you want. Oh, I guess I didn't do all the steps here. Who you want to send it to. Click
Hmm.
send responses. Once again, you have an email template you can select. It's exactly the same from here as sending out an evaluation. The only difference is what it looks like from the educator. Right, so any questions about that before we look at it from the educator's point of view?
Nope, this makes sense. Thank you.
No? Okay, great. All right, so the educator will get an email that, whatever your template has said with a link to view that student's completed evaluation. That'll take them right to this page. If you had multiple evaluations, they would all be listed here, like if they had a student self-evaluation also. And then they would click here where it says view submit form. They can click on the eyeball. And then that will open up the evaluation. They'll go through and read all the responses. And at the bottom here, if you want a signature, you can have a box for the signature. And this is something that can also be included on the student's end if the student needs to sign it as well. So then they will just use their touchpad if they have like a touch screen, or they can use their mouse to sign that form. And then they'll check this box at the bottom that they've reviewed all answers, and they'll click the review button. Then it's done, and you'll be able to see there is a different color dot in the evaluation summary that'll show you that this was reviewed as well. It's a blue dot instead. Right, any questions about that?
So from my understanding, currently we have the students fill out like a physical copy of this and have their educators sign, and then we upload all of the ones that they submit to us as kind of like the site document so that future students can see. Is there a way for these to be viewable like under site documents, if that
Yeah,
makes sense?
there is. So that's the next thing I'll talk about.
Oh,
Yep.
never mind. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So once you have those in, of course, you'll want to publish those for other students to read. Again, if this is something that you want on any evaluation that you have, so if you want it for the SEFWE, that is something you'll have to ask the support team for if it's not
Mhm.
active. A quick way to check is if you hover over placements and whether or not you have this evaluation review. That's what's
Which
going to allow
I
you to
do
publish it.
not.
Okay, yeah, so definitely request that from the support team, say that you need the ability to publish whatever evaluation it is. And if your program has like a customized version of the SEFWE, we can get yours activated for you. Again, just send that Word file of what you're using currently to the support team. And yeah, they can absolutely add a signature pad for the students, the ability to send it to the educator and get their signature, and then also the evaluation review section where you can publish it. So yeah, you'll just go to placements, evaluation review, and then that'll open up this page where you'll see all of these evaluations that have been added to this section if you have that feature available. Keep in mind here, sometimes there's filters active. So you might like open up the advanced search or remove some of the filters if nothing comes up here immediately.
Mhm.
And then what you'll want to do to get those published, of course, sorry, if you want to preview it here, if you can't remember whether or not the student left a good, one of my colleagues calls it a Yelp review, whether did a good job with their review there. If you want to read it, if you scroll to the right, there is a preview button where you can preview that student's SEFW that they filled.
And
Then
just to make sure for the placement evaluation review, is that only if you have the SEFWEs, or can that be used for all of the?
it could be used for anything. So if there's any that you want to publish to cite information for students to read, it could be the AOTA fieldwork data form, site-specific objectives, anything that you have built in the evaluation section that can be added to this
Okay,
section.
so is the fact that I can't currently see the evaluation review, is that a limit on my permissions, or does that mean that when I ask for this, I'm also going to have to specify what forms should already be in there?
Yes, you'll want to specify which forms you need it for.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, and then they'll get it active. Yep. So yeah, it's not your permissions or anything. It's just that since your school doesn't have that active on any of their forms, there's no, nothing prompting that to be there. So once you get that active, it'll be on your left menu.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Right, so then you would just select the student's form that they filled that you want to publish by checking the box there. And then you'll click to publish the form for that site. So you'll see it'll change the color of the buttons up at the top and you'll be able to click to publish. Of course, you can see you have the option to like just mark it as reviewed if you don't want to publish it. You also have the option to unpublish if you publish one and then change your mind later. Right, any questions about that?
No, thank you.
All right. So now I just quickly wanted to talk about the AOTA fieldwork data form, site-specific objectives, and then, any other custom forms or anything that your program might use. So all of these can be done through the evaluation section of steps. And just like we looked at kind of in the last couple parts of our webinar here, you can activate any of those things for the session, any of these forms, and then send them to the educators to be filled. And then obtain signatures if you need to, and publish them as part of the site information. So any of those features can be built onto any evaluation or form. You just have to request them when you ask the support team to build them. So definitely, think about all of those things that you're currently doing, what might be made easier by sending it out this way. And absolutely, just let our support team know. We can get them activated and built in. All right, any questions about that?
No, thank you.
No? All right, great. So next, let's move on to talking about the FWPE Formstack integration. So again, now that the FWPE is done through Formstack, we are not able to have the form built in steps and have it completed like our other evaluations are. However, we do have the ability to set up an integration with Formstack and Exxat. And what that will do is it will just bring the completed FWPEs over into steps, kind of like for a filing system for you. This is done pretty automatically. You just have to have like a one-time step of a setup done to get it, all ready to go. And then what our system does is makes like a call once a week to Formstack saying, are there any new forms? And Formstack will pull all those new forms into Exxat for you that have come in over the past week. So it's not, steps will not be like your source of truth, because let's say those forms pull on Saturday and you check on Monday. If somebody submitted an evaluation in Formstack on Sunday, it's not going to be there when you check on Monday. So it's not, Exxat is not going to be your source of who did this, who didn't, that type of thing, because there is that delay. However, it's going to be really nice for you just to have those there for filing, like saved, where they are. You're already, using Exxat for placements anyway. If you want to go read an evaluation really quick, you'll be able to see it in there. It's not visible to the students either yet. However, that is something that some schools have asked for that might be coming in the future. I'm hopeful. But right now it's just for you and just like a read-only filing system for those forms.
Okay.
So if that's something that you want to use and you want to set that up, there is a handout that I've included on the right-hand side of the webinar information in the handout section that has instructions about how to get this information from Formstack that we need in order to set up that integration. You can just follow those steps. It has screenshots from Formstack and everything, and send the information to our support team, and we will set up the integration for you. All right. So next, unless you have any questions, we can just kind of take a look at what that would look like once it's set up.
And I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you when you said, where is the like the instructions or the file to save it?
In the go-to webinar, you should have a handouts section.
Would
There's
that
a
be the
PDF.
email that was sent this morning?
I don't know. It might be on the app. The email goes out automatically, so I'm not sure. It will probably be on the email that goes out after, like with the recording.
Okay.
Also, it is available on our help center. So if you go to help.exxat.com, or if you're in the system, if you click on the red help button in the upper right corner, if you search Formstack in our help center, I think it's the only document that comes up that says like how to set up Formstack integration.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
No problem. All right. So once that is set up, how you can actually find those forms in the system, you'll go to placements by session, and then in the post-placement section for that session, on your to-do list, you will have added, once it's set up, you'll have FWPE review. So you'll go there, and then this will take you to a page where you can see all the details again of a student's placement. As the first column, each student's placement will be their own row, and then you'll have a column for every form that's in Formstack. So it might be the FWPE midterm and final. Then you will have where it says view, that means there is an evaluation that you can view. You'll click on that view button in order to view the student's evaluation, and it'll open it up for you. Again, it's just like a view only page for you. If it says missing, that means it hasn't been pulled over. Again, it doesn't necessarily mean it hasn't been done though. If there are two view buttons, that means there are two forms for that student. Sometimes it might be a self-evaluation as well as an educator-filled evaluation, or maybe they have two educators, it could be a variety of things. All right, any questions about that?
No, thank you.
No? Okay. So the next thing I want to talk about with Formstack integration is checking for errors. So what can happen with Formstack that could cause an evaluation not to pull over? Like we saw on that previous page, some said missing. Maybe you look in Formstack and it's not missing and it was done like 2 weeks ago. So sometimes that can happen. There are two reasons that this could occur, most likely. There's some type of mismatch basically in the data from Formstack and Exxat. The first one is email addresses. So what Exxat is using to recognize which student to map that evaluation to is the student's email address. So if the educator put a typo and misspelled the student's name in their email address, that could cause it not to pull over. Or if they put the student's personal email in there and the student's email that's in Exxat is their school email, that could cause it not to pull over. Those do not show in our system at all because our system is like, oh, I don't recognize that student, don't pull this one over. So if that happens, you'll want to go into Formstack. There is a space where you can kind of view all those email addresses. You can just scan through them really quickly and you can edit them in Formstack itself, those ones that were entered by the educator. The other reason, though, that it might not pull over, it might have the correct email address, so our system brings it in, but then the dates, there's a section in the evaluation where the educator puts in the placement dates. If those dates don't match what's in Exxat, our system is like, okay, we know the student, but we don't know which session it belongs to. So those all get pulled into this report for you. So you can find it by going to reports, other reports, and then in your general reports, you'll have Formstack missing records, which again, you will only have if you have this set up. Then when you click on that, it's going to bring you to this table that shows any of those that did pull over but didn't match to a session. What you can do here is you'll see the FWPE placement dates. Those are the dates that were entered by the educator on Formstack. So you can kind of quickly scan through here and see, one time I had this happen with a school I was working with, and the school was filling it out, it was for a rotation that took place in 2021, but the educator had actually put the dates in 2020 by accident. So that caused it not to pull over. So in that case, since, it was misinformation on Formstack, that person just went in and edited what the educator had entered on Formstack. So that'd be what you would want to do in a situation like that. But maybe let's say those are the correct dates, you just maybe didn't have those correct dates in Exxat. It's matching to the actual placement dates, which is something, when you're assigning the student's placement that you can choose. Right here on this page, it's actually going to allow you to edit those. So if you know those are the right dates, you're going to just choose which session that belongs to. It's going to list out all the sessions that student is placed for. So you can just click on that session, and then that's going to open up a pop-up here. When you're in that pop-up, you'll just go find the actual start date and end date, and you'll want to go ahead and change those dates to match what the educator entered on Formstack. And then you'll save and close. This should pretty quickly then, make it removed from this report. and should, pull it over in your next pull over in your, FWPE review section.
So one question, and if you wouldn't mind,
Sure.
if you could go back one more to like before the edit placement dates.
Yeah.
So for editing those placement dates, so like we have 2 students who for their 2A coming up have to start like a week earlier than everyone else.
Mhm.
But the session dates, because I haven't had to set up a session yet, again, very new to this,
Yeah.
how would I edit for that specific student if their placement dates are earlier? Where do I go to do that?
Yeah, I can show you that really quick. I can pull up the system. Just a second.
Because I was just going to make a note, like a note in there.
Yeah, you
There's a
can
few
actually
different like
edit them.
session notes. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Make
so
that.
if when they are placed, you can go, and I'll show you both for a new placement as well as an existing one. You'll go to
Mhm.
placements by session, and then when you click on the purple placement button in assign placement, if you already have the student assigned, like Amy here is assigned, I can just click on her name and I can change her actual placement dates right
Oh,
there.
okay.
Yeah, or if it's one that, I haven't assigned a student to yet, I can click on that open slot. When I'm choosing that student, I have on the left-hand side my actual start and end dates, and then I would just, be selecting the student from here.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions?
No, that's it. Thank you.
No? Okay. All right, and that was everything I wanted to cover about evaluations. I know that was pretty quick, but since it was just easier, there's not a ton of questions. Are there any other questions you have?
No, I think a lot of it is just digesting it and having to play around with it myself first, but this was really
Sure,
very useful because it's going to be my first time
good.
doing 2A. I mean, it's my first time doing any of this, but 2A starts next month, and I was warned by my coordinator. She's like, yeah, we're going to have to send out, she starts, I've, she's like,
Yeah.
you've integrated so well, I forget that you don't know things sometimes. So she's like, oh yeah, like the Formstack, and I was like, the what? Um, or like the FWPEs, and I was like, that, pardon me. So this has been helpful. So thank you for your
Good,
time.
good. Well, thank you for joining. And then if it helps at all, let me bring up here. Definitely make sure, either if you're in our system, you can open up our
Mhm.
help center right here. There's lots of documents there if you're a person that likes to read documents. We also
Mhm.
have lots of videos on our YouTube channel. So if you just like Google
Mm.
exact YouTube, there's a ton here that can be helpful in the playlists, particularly if you want to watch like these the monthly refresh webinars. There's a series for like new faculty and staff. Um, you'll see here there's like OT and OTA ones. You could watch
Okay.
those. There's lots of specific ones, managing placements, or of course you can just go through the videos and see the list. Definitely make sure if your version looks like the screenshots and everything that I shared, you want to watch these V3 ones.
Okay.
Version 4 is our new version of the system that schools are starting to move over to. So that'll be something you'll worry about when your program moves over. But right now, what you'll be concerned about are the ones that are tagged with V3. So if it says version 4 or V4, don't worry about those just yet. Definitely watch the V3 ones. And then STEPS is the placement product. Plan is for curriculum mapping. So
Mhm.
you can see here we kind of have these color coded. Most of our users, more of our users are on STEPS. But you can kind of see by the little previews here, a lot of these are steps. And then the
Okay.
plan ones are in orange. So yeah, definitely there's a ton here, even some of these older ones would still be pertinent. I would just worry a little bit about if there's like an old one about the SEFWE or something, it might have been before
Mhm.
we had it in evaluations.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I think that is it.
All right, well, I hope you have a great rest of your day, and
You
thank
as
you for
well.
joining the webinar.
Cool. Thank you. Have
All
a good
right,
day.
all right, take care. Bye.
Bye.